The video opens with a rapid, glitch-style montage, designed to feel like a corrupted memory, a damaged videotape from a bygone era. The screen flickers with old, grainy 4:3 aspect ratio footage of a younger Donald Trump and Howard Stern laughing together in a cramped, chaotic radio studio in the 1990s. The audio is a distorted, echoing loop of their past friendship, snippets of inside jokes and mutual admiration that now sound haunting. This nostalgic imagery is immediately shattered by a hard, jarring cut to a modern, pristine, high-definition shot of the bright, welcoming, and almost sterile set of The Today Show. The contrast is deliberately jarring, a visual representation of a relationship that has moved from the dark, intimate shadows of shock radio into the bright, unforgiving, and corporate lights of mainstream network television. We see a quick cut of Howard Stern in a modern interview, his face etched with a deep seriousness and a look of critical judgment. His trademark dark glasses perched on his nose like a shield. This is followed by a shot of Donald Trump at a massive political rally, his expression defiant and angry, pointing a finger at an unseen enemy in the crowd, a world away from the jovial man in the radio studio. The screen then shows a tight reaction shot of the Today Show host, perhaps Savannah Guthrie, looking utterly stunned. Her mouth slightly agape, her eyes darting between her two guests as if watching a tennis match from hell. Her professional composure, a hallmark of morning television, is visibly cracking under the strain of the raw tension. We see a visceral close-up of a hand, adorned with a familiar, large ring, slamming down hard on the padded arm of a guest chair, the impact causing a slight but noticeable shake of the camera, a physical manifestation of the erupting anger. The music, a low, ominous synth track that has been building quietly and methodically, swells to a dramatic, almost painful climax, and then is abruptly cut to dead, absolute silence. The sudden quiet is deafening, leaving the viewer in a state of suspended animation, holding their breath for what comes next. After a 2-second pause of pure black screen, the narrator's voice begins. It is deep, serious, and has the gravitas of a documentary narrator chronicling a major historical event. A voice that implies weight and significance. There are rivalries, there are feuds, and then there is Howard Stern versus Donald Trump. It is a relationship forged over decades in the wild, unregulated, and often sordid world of morning radio. A strange and powerful friendship that eventually curdled into one of the most public, most bitter, and most deeply personal feuds in modern American media. For years, they were allies to larger-than-life New York personalities who understood, promoted, and, in many ways, symbiotically created each other's public personas. Now, they are sworn enemies to men who both believe, with absolute conviction, that they were profoundly betrayed by the other. So what happens when these two immense forces of nature, these two masters of media manipulation, are brought together on the supposedly neutral, family-friendly ground of morning television? What happens when a long and sordid history of private jokes, shared secrets, and incredibly explicit conversations is dragged, kicking and screaming, into the bright, unforgiving light of the Today Show? A new shot begins, ultra-slow-motion footage of Donald Trump walking onto the Today Show set. He is forcing a smile, the kind of tight, strained smile a boxer gives his opponent during the referee's instructions before the first bell. In the guest chair, already seated and looking perfectly comfortable, is Howard Stern. He does not smile. He does not clap. He simply watches Trump's approach, his expression completely unreadable. As still and patient as a predator watching its prey walk calmly and unknowingly into a perfectly laid trap. Tonight, we are not just analyzing a segment of television. We are dissecting a television event that was years, even decades, in the making. A fiery, explosive, and deeply uncomfortable exchange that was, in retrospect, destined to happen from the very moment it was booked. We will show you how a planned joint interview on the Today Show, intended by the network to be a blockbuster media event, a must-see TV moment, devolved into a personal, brutal, and ugly confrontation that ended with a historic and unprecedented walk-off. This was not just another political debate about policy or polls. This was something far more primal. This was the final, messy, and public chapter of a friendship gone horribly wrong. Played out in real time in front of a live national audience of millions. We will reveal the one specific topic from their shared, private past that Stern refused to let go of, the one subject that was so personal and so sensitive that it acted as a key to unlock a side of Trump that even his closest political allies rarely, if ever, see. We will expose the deeply personal question that crossed an uncrossable line, and we will pinpoint the exact moment that Trump's carefully constructed public composure, his armor of bravado, shattered into a million pieces, leading him to stand up, declare the interview over, and storm off the set in a fit of raw, unfiltered rage. This is the story of a friendship, a betrayal, and a television train wreck that was impossible to look away from. Hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications, because you are not going to want to miss a single second of this deep dive breakdown. We have the details, the analysis, and the crucial backstory that you will not find anywhere else. The ominous synth music fades back in, lower and more menacing this time. As the screen shifts to an investigative documentary-style presentation, we see a montage of archival photos, presented as if being pulled from a dusty, forgotten file cabinet. Trump and Stern at a movie premiere in the 90s, laughing their arms around each other. Trump giving a thumbs up in the cramped, sticker-covered Stern radio studio. Stern and Trump at a celebrity event, both looking younger, more carefree, and in a strange way, more innocent. These images of past camaraderie are intercut with modern clips of them viciously attacking each other in the media, creating a powerful sense of dissonance and loss. The visual narrative is clear. This is a story of a bond that broke, a friendship that turned to poison. To truly understand the sheer explosive power of what happened on that Today Show set, you cannot just look at the politics of today. You have to go back. Back to the 1990s and early 2000s, when Donald Trump was not a politician, but a recurring A-list character on The Howard Stern Show. For years, Trump was one of Stern's favorite and most frequent guests. He would call in regularly, sometimes unannounced, to brag about his wealth, his buildings, his television ratings, and, most notoriously, his personal life. The interviews were famously unfiltered, shockingly personal, and often incredibly explicit. In the Anything Goes world of Stern's radio show, a world free from the constraints of the FCC and corporate standards, no topic was off limits. Trump felt safe in Stern's world. He saw Howard not as a journalist who would challenge him, but as a fellow entertainer, a powerful ally who was helping him build his celebrity brand. He understood that Stern's massive, loyal, and predominantly male audience was a powerful tool for shaping his public image. On that show, over hundreds of hours of airtime, Trump revealed a side of himself that he kept hidden from the more buttoned-up world of network television. He shared stories, opinions, and details about his life that were raw, unguarded, and deeply revealing. These conversations, these ghosts of the past, are absolutely critical to understanding the eventual explosion. They represent a vault of personal secrets, and Howard Stern was the only other person with a key. But then, in 2015, everything changed. When Donald Trump descended the golden escalator and announced his candidacy for president, the world expected Howard Stern, his longtime friend and media ally, to be one of his biggest and most vocal supporters. Instead, in a move that shocked the media landscape and sent ripples through their shared social circles, Stern did the exact opposite. He did not support Trump. He became one of his most vocal and effective critics. Stern began to use his intimate encyclopedic knowledge of the real Donald Trump, the man he knew from all those years of private, unguarded conversations, as ammunition against his presidential campaign. He would tell stories on his show that painted a picture of Trump that was deeply at odds with the image he was now projecting to the American people. From Stern's perspective, he felt that he had been used. He felt that the man he had helped make famous, the man whose celebrity he had nurtured, was now a threat to the country, and it was his moral duty to speak out. From Trump's perspective, he felt he had been profoundly and unforgivably betrayed. He saw Stern's criticism not as a political disagreement, but as a deeply personal attack from a man he had once trusted, a man who was now using their private history against him for ratings and relevance. The friendship was not just over, it was annihilated, replaced by a bitter and deeply personal public feud that played out in the media for years. This long, ugly history set the stage for the Today Show disaster. The producers of the show, in a relentless quest for a ratings blockbuster, thought they were booking a must-see joint interview about a current topic. What they actually did whether they knew it or not, was put to former best friends, now bitter mortal enemies, in a small room together, with one of them holding decades of personal, explicit, and potentially damaging secrets about the other. Howard Stern wasn't there to talk about politics. He was there to confront the man he used to know, the man he felt had betrayed him. He was there to use the ghosts of their shared past as his ultimate weapon. The explosion on that set was not just possible, it was inevitable. It was a story not of politics, but of personal revenge, broadcast live to a stunned and captivated nation. To truly understand the raw, personal nature of the explosion on the Today Show set, you have to understand that this was never about politics. Politics was merely the backdrop, the public stage on which a much older, more intimate, and far more bitter drama was about to play out for the world to see. To get to the heart of the conflict, you have to rewind the clock. You have to go back to a different era, a different New York City, a different media landscape entirely. You have to go back to the 1990s and early 2000s, when Donald Trump was not a political figure, but a recurring A-list character on The Howard Stern Show. For years, long before he ever considered a run for public office, Donald Trump was one of Howard Stern's favorite and most frequent guests. He was a fixture on the show. He would call in regularly, sometimes unannounced, his distinctive, confident voice, a familiar presence on the airwaves for millions of listeners during their morning commute. He would brag about his immense wealth, the unparalleled beauty of his buildings, the record-breaking success of his television show. The interviews were famously unfiltered, shockingly personal, and often incredibly explicit. In the anything-goes world of Stern's radio show, a chaotic universe free from the constraints of the FCC and the prim standards of corporate media. No topic was ever considered off-limits. It was a place where the normal rules of public discourse did not apply. A safe haven for the kind of talk that would get you fired from any other platform. Trump, a man who has always craved media attention above all else, thrived in this environment. He felt safe in Stern's world. He saw Howard not as a journalist who would challenge him or fact-check him, but as a fellow entertainer, a powerful ally who was helping him build and maintain his celebrity brand. He understood that Stern's massive, loyal, and predominantly male audience was a powerful tool for shaping his public image as a successful, powerful, and desirable man. On that show, over hundreds of hours of airtime spread across 2 decades. Trump revealed a side of himself that he kept carefully hidden from the more buttoned-up world of network television and print media. He shared stories, opinions, and intimate details about his life that were raw, unguarded, and deeply revealing. He was performing, of course, but it was a different kind of performance, more relaxed, more boastful, and far less cautious. These conversations, these ghosts of the past, are absolutely critical to understanding the eventual explosion. They represent a vast, detailed vault of personal secrets, of unguarded moments, and of explicit statements. And Howard Stern was the only other person in the world who held a key to that vault. But then, in the summer of 2015, everything changed. When Donald Trump descended the infamous golden escalator at Trump Tower and announced his candidacy for President of the United States, the media landscape was thrown into a state of shock and confusion. In those early days, many expected Howard Stern, his longtime friend and media ally, to be one of his biggest and most vocal supporters. After all, who knew Trump better? Who had given him more airtime over the years? Instead, in a move that shocked the media world and sent ripples through their shared social circles in New York, Stern did the exact opposite. He did not support Trump. In fact, he became one of his most vocal, most persistent, and most effective critics. Stern began to use his intimate encyclopedic knowledge of the real Donald Trump, the man he knew from all those years of private, unguarded conversations, as a weapon against his presidential campaign. He would tell stories on his show, sometimes with a tone of regret, sometimes with a tone of disbelief, that painted a picture of Trump that was deeply at odds with the image he was now projecting to the American people. He would contrast the candidate on the debate stage with the man he used to joke with on the phone about women and money. From Stern's perspective, he felt that he had been used. He felt that the man he had helped make famous, the man whose celebrity he had actively nurtured for decades, was now a threat to the country, and it was his moral duty to speak out. He saw it as a responsibility to share his unique insight with the public. From Trump's perspective, the feeling was one of profound and unforgivable betrayal. He saw Stern's criticism not as a simple political disagreement, but as a deeply personal attack from a man he had once trusted, a man who was now using their private history against him for ratings and relevance. The friendship was not just over, it was annihilated, replaced by a bitter and deeply personal public feud that played out in the media for years. This long, ugly, and painful history is what set the stage for the Today Show disaster. The producers of the show, in a relentless quest for a ratings blockbuster, thought they were booking a must-see joint interview about a current topic. They saw the names Trump and Stern and saw ratings gold. What they actually did, whether they knew it or not, was put to former best friends, now bitter mortal enemies, in a small, brightly lit room together, with one of them holding decades of personal, explicit, and potentially damaging secrets about the other. Howard Stern wasn't there to talk about politics. He was there to confront the man he used to know, the man he felt had betrayed him and the country. He was there to use the ghosts of their shared past as his ultimate weapon. The explosion on that set was not just possible, it was absolutely 100% inevitable. It was a story not of politics, but of personal revenge, broadcast live to a stunned and captivated nation. The atmosphere on the set before the segment began was described by crew members as being unlike anything they had ever experienced in their careers. The usual lighthearted morning show chatter, the friendly banter between hosts, makeup artists, and camera operators, was gone. In its place was a heavy, oppressive silence that seemed to suck the air out of the room. Donald Trump and Howard Stern were seated in their chairs, separated by the show's host, who looked like a terrified referee between two heavyweight boxers who had every intention of breaking the rules. They did not speak to each other. They did not acknowledge each other. They did not even make eye contact. Trump stared straight ahead, his jaw clenched so tightly you could see the muscles flexing, a look of grim determination on his face. He looked like a man preparing for a battle he did not want to fight but knew he could not avoid. Stern, in contrast, seemed almost unnervingly relaxed, leaning back in his chair. Observing Trump with a cool, analytical detachment, it was the calm before a hurricane, a palpable tension that everyone from the lighting grips to the executive producers could feel in their bones. The producers in the control room were a mess of nerves. They knew the history, but they had foolishly hoped that the professional environment of network television, the presence of a moderator, and the bright, family-friendly set would keep the two men in check. They had given both of them strict instructions through their representatives to keep the conversation civil and focused on the agreed-upon topics. It was a hope born of desperation, a naive belief that a professional obligation could contain years of personal animosity. They were about to learn that the deep-seated animosity between these two men could not be contained by a producer's instructions or the bright lights of a television studio. The host, a seasoned professional, started the interview on the safest possible ground, asking a broad, generic question about the state of the country. Trump answered with his standard talking points, delivering them with a practiced, almost robotic ease. Stern remained silent, letting Trump speak, his expression unchanging, his gaze unwavering. Then, the host turned to Stern for his response, and in that moment, the plan, the civility, and the entire segment began to completely and irrevocably unravel. Stern completely ignored the political question. He didn't address the topic at hand. Instead, he turned his body slightly, a subtle but significant shift, looked directly at Donald Trump for the very first time, and with a calm, almost conversational tone, he brought up the past. He didn't start with an attack. He started with a memory, a shared joke from an old radio show. I remember when that was designed to sound friendly, but was, in reality, the first turn of the key in the lock of their shared secret history. You could see the immediate, almost imperceptible tensing in Trump's shoulders. The friendly mask he had worn for the opening minute of the interview began to slip. He responded curtly, his voice tight, trying to brush off the comment and pivot back to the political topic. But Stern wouldn't let him. He pressed on, bringing up another memory, this one a little more specific, a little more personal, a reference to a conversation only the two of them would fully understand. He was not yelling. He was not being aggressive. He was doing something far more effective. He was slowly, methodically reintroducing the world of his old radio show onto the set of the Today Show. He was reminding Trump and the audience that he knew a different version of the man sitting next to him, a version that was not presidential. The host, sensing absolute danger, tried to intervene to jump in and steer the conversation back to safe ground. But it was too late. The two men were no longer on the Today Show. In their minds, they were back in the radio studio, locked in their old dynamic. But this time, the dynamic was hostile, poisoned by years of resentment. The ghosts of hundreds of hours of explicit, unguarded conversations were being summoned into the bright morning light, and they were about to tear the fabric of morning television apart. The air crackled with unspoken history. And the stage was set for a confrontation that would be remembered for years to come. Asterisk.